Hey there! You might know Barak in Spanish. Our channel has over 400,000 subscribers. Well, this is the official English version. Same content, same passion. Now in your language. But we need your help to grow. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this new journey. Now, let's get back to the video. Welcome to a new edition of Pure Facts. In this installment, the countries that sell their footballers the best. Irving Lozano to PSV Eindhoven in 2017. Diego Lainez to Real Betis in 2018. Edson Alvarez to Ajax in 2019. Gerardo Arteaga to Genk in 2020. Johan Vázquez to Genoa in 2021. César Montes to Espanyol and Santiago Jiménez to Feyenoord in 2022, Luis Chavez to Dinamo Moscow in 2023, Mateo Chavez to AC Alkmaar in 2025. Liga MX clubs have brought in a total of 164 million euros from all the players they've sold abroad in the past 10 years. An insufficient figure to place Mexican football even among the top 25 exporters on the planet. Konstantinos Tsimikas from Olympiacos to Liverpool, Fotis Ioannidis from Panathinaikos to Sporting Portugal, and Charalambos Costulas from Olympiacos to Brighton are just a few examples of Greek football exports in the past decade, totaling to 125 million euros, a number well above the 164 million generated by Liga MX Mexican talent. Almost tied with Greek football, the Turkish league has brought in to 127 million euros from Turkish players exported over the last 10 years. Arda Güler from Fenerbahce to Real Madrid, Cenk Tosun from Besiktas to Everton, and Ferdi Kadioglu from Fenerbahce to Brighton were simply the most expensive transfers in this period. The United States is the 23rd best exporter of local footballers, with a total of 231 million euros. 57% of those players are under 20 years old. To be clear, this does not include transfers like Christian Pulisic from Dortmund to Chelsea, Malik Tillman from PSV to Leverkusen, Brendan Aronson from Red Bull Salzburg to Leeds United, or Tyler Adams from Leeds to Bournemouth. Here we're talking specifically about what MLS teams earn from transfer like Ricardo Pepi to Wolfsburg, Matt Turner to Arsenal, or Kevin Paredes to Wolfsburg, etc. Jakub Kaminski to Wolfsburg, Jakub Moder and Kasper Kolowski to Brighton and Hove Albion are three of hundreds of Polish players sold to major European leagues at moderate prices, for a total of 244 million euros in the last 10 years. In 2018, Red Bull Salzburg in Austria bought an 18-year-old striker named Erling Braut Haaland. He cost 80 million euros. 2 years earlier, Alexander Sorloth from Rosenborg had cost just €500,000 euros to Groningen in the Eredivisie. Antonio Nusa currently plays for RB Leipzig, which means he will almost certainly be in a Premier League giant very soon. Nusa came from Stabæk, which sold him to Club Brugge in Belgium for 6 million euros in 2021. In total, Norwegian clubs have earned 253 million euros from international sales over the last decade. Patrik Schick of Sparta Prague began his rise to European football in 2016, when Sampdoria paid 4 million euros for him. In total, such clubs have earned 263 million euros from players sold in the last decade. Proportionally, there is only one country in the world more specialized in selling young footballers than the United States, and that country is Serbia. 67% of the 305 million euros Serbian clubs have earned since 2016 came from selling players under the age of 20. The vast majority of them from Red Star Belgrade, such as Kosta Nedeljkovic, Aston Villa, Andrija Maksimovic, RB Leipzig, and Belko Milosavljevic, from Bournemouth. They're not known today, but just wait. Swedish clubs have earned 306 million euros in the past decade, selling among others Lucas Bergvall from Djurgårdens to Tottenham, Hugo Larsson from Malmö to Eintracht Frankfurt, and Alexander Isak from AEK to Borussia Dortmund for 8.6 million euros, 20 times less than what Liverpool paid 9 years later. Darwin Núñez from Peñarol to Almería, Manuel Ugarte from Phoenix to Famalicão, Facundo Pelistri from Peñarol to Manchester United. These are just some examples of Uruguayan talent exported directly to Europe, totaling 334 million euros for Uruguayan clubs over the past 10 seasons. The third most export-savvy country in the Americas is Colombia. Before Al Nassr paid 77 million for John Duran, the striker left Envigado for MLS for less than 2 million. In 2019, Junior de Barranquilla sold Luis Diaz to Porto for 7 million euros. 6 seasons later, Liverpool received 70 million euros from Bayern Munich for that same player. Colombia is forced to sell cheap so others profit, but 339 million euros in 10 years is nothing to scoff at. Ukrainian clubs have also earned 339 million euros, although that figure is inflated mainly by Chelsea's massive and disastrous investment in Mikhailo Mudryk, for whom Shakhtar Donetsk received 70 million in 2022. Red Bull Salzburg in Austria is one of Europe's great exporters, and interestingly, many of its sales are Austrian players who moved directly into the German Bundesliga, like Nicolas Seewald and Hannes Wolf to RB Leipzig, Valentino Lesero to Hertha Berlin and Xavi Schlager to Wolfsburg. In total, the Austrian Bundesliga has generated 349 million euros in the past decade from exporting Austrian footballers. Over the last 10 years, Swiss league clubs earned 371 million euros selling players developed in Switzerland, including Bril Mbolo, Basel to Schalke 04, Manuel Akanji, Basel to Borussia Dortmund, and Dan Ndoye, Basel to Bologna. Just like Red Bull Salzburg in Austria and Basel in Switzerland, Dinamo Zagreb accounts for the bulk of Croatia's 484 million euros in exports in the last decade, including Josko Gvardiol to RB Leipzig and Petar Susic to Inter Milan. Quietly, Danish clubs have generated 570 million euros over the past decade exporting young talent. 2 of those millions were paid in 2022 by Sturmgrass for Rasmus Højlund of Copenhagen, whom Atalanta sold 40 times more expensive to Manchester United a year and a half later. Though none of that resale money went back to Denmark. Belgian clubs have generated 847 million euros selling Belgian players in the last 10 years. And that's not even counting the real jackpots, like Chelsea selling Eden Hazard for 120 million to Real Madrid, Inter selling Romelu Lukaku for 113 million, or Rennes selling Jeremy Doku for 60 million to Manchester City. Even so, Belgian clubs still sell pretty well. Doku himself cost Rennes 26 million when he was at Anderlecht. Milan paid 38 million to Club Brugge for Charles de Ketelaere, to tell just 2 of the biggest transfers. Only clubs from 9 countries have generated over 1 billion euros in local player export sales in the last 10 years. Italy is one of them, helped by Newcastle's signing of Sandro Tonali, along with others sold to the Premier League like Jorginho to Chelsea, Ricardo Calafiori to Arsenal, or Federico Chiesa and Giovanni Leoni to Liverpool, totaling 1.04 billion euros. Despite the crisis German football is going through, The Bundesliga has profited very well selling German players to the Premier League. Kai Havertz, Florian Wirtz, Timo Werner, and Nick Woltemade headline the list that reaches 1.483 billion euros in the last decade. Surprisingly, Argentina is not among the top 5 exporters today. Argentinian clubs have earned 1.555 billion euros, selling players like Enzo Fernandez, Franco Mastantuono, and Lautaro Martinez. The rest, Alexis McAllister, Cristian Romero, Lisandro Martinez, Matias Soule, etc., left for far too cheap. England totals 1.601 billion euros for players developed in England and sold from the Premier League to other leagues. Harry Kane, Michael Olise, Jarrell Kwanzaa, and the Bellingham brothers to the Bundesliga. Fikayo Tomori, Tammy Abraham, and Scott McTominay to Serie A. Conor Gallagher to La Liga, Mason Greenwood to Ligue 1, and Ivan Toney to Saudi Arabia. Frankie de Jong to Barcelona and Matthias de Ligt to Juventus for 86 million each. Joel Hato to Chelsea for 44 million. Cody Gakpo to Liverpool for 42 million. Jurriën Timber to Arsenal for 40 million euros. The Eredivisie has generated 1.633 billion euros in the past decade only from Dutch players, not including Antony, Lisandro Martinez, Irving Lozano, or Mohamed Kudus. Joao Felix to Atletico Madrid, Ruben Dias to Manchester City, Gonzalo Ramos to PSG, Renato Sanchez to Bayern Munich, just to name some of Benfica's blockbuster sales. Bruno Fernandes to Manchester United, Nuno Mendes to PSG, Mateus Nunes to Wolves from Sporting Portugal, Vitinha to PSG, Francisco Conceição to Juventus, Fabio Vieira to Arsenal, and Andrés Silva to Milan from Porto. In total, 1.987 billion euros paid from abroad for Portuguese players since 2016. Spain has generated 2.024 billion euros exporting talent in the past decade. Examples: Álvaro Morata and Kepa Arrizabalaga to Chelsea, Martín Zubimendi and Mikel Merino to Arsenal, and Rodri, Aymeric Laporte and Ferran Torres to Manchester City. Endrick, Rodrigo and Vinicius at 18, Gabriel Jesus at 19, Gabigol at 20, Artur Melo and Lucas Paqueta at 21. In the last 10 years, the rest of the world has spent 2.604 billion euros on talent made in Brazil. The younger, the more expensive. Far above, light years ahead, stands the business model of Ligue 1. Where even to begin? William Saliba, Saint-Étienne to Arsenal, 30 million. Malo Gusto, Lyon to Chelsea, 30 million. Eduardo Camavinga, Ran to Real Madrid, 31 million. Hugo Ekitike, PSG to Eintracht Frankfurt, 32 million. Ousmane Dembélé, Ran to Borussia Dortmund, 35 million. Jules Koundé, Bordeaux to Sevilla, 35 million. Ryan Cherki, Lyon to Manchester City, 37 million. Benoit Badiashile, Monaco to Chelsea, 38 million. Tiemoué Bakayoko, Monaco to Chelsea, 40 million. Corentin Tolisso, Lyon to Bayern Munich, 42 million. Benjamin Mendy, Monaco to Manchester City, 58 million. Tanguy Ndombele, Lyon to Tottenham, 62 million. Lenny Joro, Lille to Manchester United, 62 million. Thomas Lemar, Monaco to Atletico de Madrid, 62 million. Aurelien Tchouameni, Monaco to Real Madrid 80 million euros. The total of this, plus many others, equals 3.976 billion euros in the past decade, meaning France earns nearly 400 million euros every year exporting French players abroad.